The tension was palpable as officers stood outside the modest, sun-worn home on McClintock Drive. The Arizona heat beat down on their backs, but that wasn't why they felt uncomfortable. The tip they had received had been vague yet ominous. Check the backyard freezer. And now, standing mere feet from it, they could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on them. Joseph Hill Jr., 51, stood at the door, his expression a mix of defiance and desperation. "I told you," he repeated for what must have been the 10th time, "you don't need to see what's back there." But the police were resolute. This wasn't a routine check, it was a potential crime scene. What they discovered when they finally pried open that freezer would leave even the most seasoned detective shaken. Before we continue, if you're as captivated by this unfolding mystery as we are, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that will leave you speechless. Your support means we can continue bringing you real-life stories like this one. Now, to understand how it all came to this, we need to rewind 4 years. Joseph Hill Jr. had always been an enigmatic figure in the neighborhood. The neighbors would see him occasionally a solitary man with deep-set eyes that seemed to carry a hidden burden. He lived in the house his father had built in the 1960s, a place that had once been full of life and laughter, but had become quiet and forlorn over the years. Joseph's father, Joseph Hill Sr., had been a well-respected war veteran known for his stories and unwavering discipline. But as the years passed, age took its toll, and his presence in the community became less frequent. Neighbors assumed he had moved to a care facility or was staying with distant relatives. Little did they know, Joseph Sr. never left that house. One day, a delivery driver noticed something odd. Joseph Jr. rarely interacted with anyone, but on this particular day, he had a tense exchange with the driver. "Where should I leave this?" the driver asked, referring to a large, industrial-sized freezer. Joseph's face was pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he directed the driver to the backyard. "Just put it there. I'll take care of the rest," he muttered. Months turned into years, and the house on McClintock Drive continued to deteriorate. Weeds crept up the walls, and the paint peeled under the relentless Arizona sun. Joseph Jr. only ventured out for essentials, and even those trips became infrequent. He was always alone. The few neighbors who bothered to ask about his father received curt, evasive answers. But whispers started to circulate. Penny, a longtime resident of the area, noticed strange sounds at odd hours, the unmistakable hum of machinery, and once, a thud that made her jump in her seat. "It's wild," Penny would tell friends over coffee. "Something's not right over there." Then came the day when the police received an anonymous tip. "There's a body in a freezer at 105 McClintock," the voice had said. It could have been a prank call, but something about the trembling urgency in the caller's tone made them take it seriously. Officers arrived, prepared for anything, or so they thought. When they confronted Joseph Jr., he initially refused them entry. "It's my house," he said, eyes darting nervously from the officers to the backyard. "You can't just walk in here." But after hours of negotiation and a hastily obtained search warrant, the officers finally stepped into the backyard. The freezer stood ominously in the corner, wrapped in layers of duct tape, saran wrap, blankets, and tarps as if it were a makeshift time capsule. Breaking through the seal was a gruesome task. Each layer peeled back revealed another barrier, until at last, the officers reached the lid. When they opened it, a heavy, putrid smell filled the air. Inside, they found human remains skeletal, wrapped with care, almost as if someone had tried to preserve them with the same reverence one might use for a family heirloom. Joseph Jr. sat in the living room, his head in his hands. "He died at home," he whispered when questioned. 4 years ago. I didn't know what else to do." According to him, Joseph Sr. had passed peacefully in his sleep. The younger Hill, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, couldn't bear to report the death. He wasn't on the deed to the house. If the authorities got involved, he feared he would be left homeless. But there was another, darker reason he kept his father's death a secret: the Social Security checks. Hill admitted to cashing his father's monthly payments even after he died. "I didn't have a choice," he said, eyes filled with regret. "I needed to survive." What began as a desperate bid to stay afloat had spiraled into a morbid, years-long lie. He had moved the freezer multiple times, from the garage to the backyard, whenever he feared discovery. The guilt gnawed at him, but survival instinct won every time. The officers' discovery set off a chain of events that rocked the quiet neighborhood. Forensic teams arrived, setting up bright lights that turned night into day. Neighbors gathered on their lawns, whispering and shaking their heads as Penny summed it up best: "You just never know who people really are." Meanwhile, an autopsy was ordered to confirm the identity of the remains and determine the cause of death. Initial reports suggested there were no signs of foul play, but the state had questions. Why had Joseph Jr. kept this secret for so long? Was it only the fear of losing his home, or was there more? The story made headlines across Arizona, drawing comparisons to other cases of hidden family deaths. The small house near McClintock Drive became a spectacle, with news vans and curious onlookers clogging the once quiet street. Joseph Hill Jr. was arrested and charged with concealing a body and failing to report a death. His bail was set at $25,000. Hill's preliminary hearing promised to be the talk of the town. Would his story of desperation sway the court, or would they see it as the cold, calculated act of a man who valued money over morality? As more details emerged, including Hill's conflicting stories about intending to bury the body in the desert, it became clear that the full truth might never be known. But one thing was certain: this quiet, haunting tale would linger in the minds of everyone who heard it, a grim reminder that behind every closed door, there could be secrets unimaginable. Stay tuned as we follow this case and more stories like it. If you found this story captivating, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more real-life stories, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any updates.